It was a death that shocked the community of Prince Rupert in British Columbia, the murder of a mother and government worker in a busy mall in broad daylight. The killer, her ex-fiancée, who was working as a border guard. Now a CBC investigation sheds new light on the killing of Patty Foreman and raises questions for Canada's Border Services Agency. We're joined now by CBC's Betsy Trumpner, whose investigation led to these new details. And Betsy, you've been following this case for years. Tell us what happened that day in Prince Rupert.
Patty Foreman was walking to work at her government job. She worked at the Ministry of Children and Families, and she was walking through this building that's got a school in it and a daycare and other government offices when she was gunned down. Now, a lot of terror, shock, confusion. City Hall was locked down. There was calls to 911 about an active shooter. And later, after it became apparent what had happened, you had a crowd of people gathering outside, people shocked, people crying. And at the end of it, Patty Foreman was dead, as was the man who had shot her ex-fiancé, Shawn Yeung, who was a border guard.
And tell me a little bit more about Patty.
Patty Foreman, as you mentioned, dedicated mom, government worker who loved her job with children and families. She was a really well-known performer, really talented singer, very well-known, very beloved in the community. And, remembered details like she baked some cheese bread, in the last week that she was alive. So just like really well-loved, extremely well-known in the community, which just kind of added to the shock of what had happened.
Now, a key part of your investigation was uncovering the murder weapon, that the murder weapon was the service weapon of this CBSA officer. He took it out of the office even though he was off duty. So tell us about that sequence of events.
Yeah, so Patty Foreman was shot down and killed at about 8:30 that morning. So what we've learned is that about 6 hours prior, in the middle of the night, Shawn Yeung went to the Canadian Border Services office that was closed. He got into a restricted locked firearms lockup. He was able to get his gun out, which was a semi-automatic handgun, a Beretta. He was able to take that gun. He was able to leave the building and hold that gun for 6 hours until he went into the building and killed Patty Foreman. Officials didn't know until after the shootings that the gun was missing. And some of the reasons that we later learned, the CCTV camera had not been working for many months, and the office had not been having any procedure in place to change passwords or codes into these secure areas. So a lot of concerns raised about how an off-duty officer could get into this lockup in the middle of the night when he was off duty.
Yeah, and people may not fully understand that in Canada, there are very, very strict controls on guns generally, but especially on handguns, and especially for public agencies like police and CBSA, that they have to, have very strict rules and control of weapons. Now, a key question in your reporting was what the CBSA knew or didn't know about the killer's mental state. You found that Patty had told the RCMP she was being stalked, which would suggest that the killer, maybe had some mental issues. Problem is, as you put in your reporting, the CBSA won't disclose anything about his mental state. They say for privacy reasons. But the former head of BC's agency that investigates police questions very much that reasoning. Let's play a clip.
You have an individual who is in the employ of the state, who committed a murder-suicide, who used a publicly owned firearm to do it, and committed that act in public. All of that, I would suggest, greatly minimizes his privacy rights, but also, and more importantly, greatly increases the public interest to know what was going on, and particularly where an enforcement agency may or may not have culpability for what happened.
And just to double check, Betsy, despite that perspective from somebody who knows a lot about public accountability and public investigations, nothing from the CBSA to you on what they knew about the mental state of the killer, right?
That's right. The RCMP are not commenting. CBSA won't say anything. So really all we have are the concerns that we hear Patty shared with her friends and family in the time before the shooting. And of course, we're coming up on the 3rd anniversary of her death, a really difficult time for people in Prince Rupert. The people that we talked to said, you know, we obviously at CBC are doing our job to investigate and try to find some answers, but they really want Patty remembered as a person, not for this crime. And just sticks with me, someone who worked with her at the Ministry of Children and Families, saying that they still have a photograph of Patty in their office and that they think about her every day.
Well, you've done a nice job of remembering her, but also digging into this story. CBC's Betsy Trumpner in Prince George. Thank you.
Thanks.